The reason I want to make this video today is pretty simple. I want to see each and every one of you actually hit your goals much faster than I did. That's dividend investing or not. But if you choose dividend stocks, then I want you to listen up, because these 5 takeaways of mine would have made a world of a difference in terms of where I actually stand today, which is now just north of $250,000 within my dividend portfolio. And moreover, whether your goal is your first 100K, doubling that to 200K, or striving for the big $1 million portfolio, all 5 of these lessons will just get you there much faster. But enough talking here. Let's go ahead and kick off into lesson numero uno. SCHD is not a one-size-fits-all ETF. Now, I know that may hurt some of you to hear, definitely amongst the dividend investors who will go to war over any negative commentary over this all-famous Charles Schwab dividend ETF. But I want you to hear me out on this. We are all at different positions in life with different goals in mind, as well as risk tolerance levels and investment timelines, which means as investors, we really need to think and act accordingly. Now, SCHD is reliable. That we all know. I mean, clicking into the fund's overview, we were going to discover that the fund is going to track as closely as possible the Dow Jones Dividend 100 Index, meaning you're going to have exposure to a ton of safety across sectors, with financials that make up 18.7% worth of the fund's weight, before tapping into healthcare at roughly 16.6% of the fund's weight, consumer staples at 14.3%, industrials and energy at 13.2% and 11.6% respectively, which all work together to about 103 holdings, with the top 10 coming down to Coca-Cola, AbbVie, Cisco Systems, Amgen, Pfizer, Chevron, Verizon, Home Depot, Bristol-Myers Squibb, and BlackRock. These are all companies that I am sure you are well aware of and have deemed established leaders in their respective industries, meaning that they're just safe investments. But like I said, based on your investor profile, you want to consider more growth, perhaps, or less growth, and more risk or less risk, whatever may have you. But let's go ahead and just hit a simple comparison here, comparing SCHD to, say, the S&P 500 with Vanguard's S&P fund, VOO. And we're going to see that it blows SCHD out of the water, or heck, even just investing into a quote-unquote riskier bet with a tech fund like VGT will do the same and more, putting SCHD to shame. After 5 years, we can see that SCHD appreciated roughly 43%, whereas the S&P itself just about doubled that in terms of returns. But that tech orientation there with VGT appreciated by over 140%. So if you're closer to retirement or in retirement, then sure, SCHD may be your best bet and your money maker. But if you're on your day one, I'd be hyper focused on an investment foundation with the S&P itself, or like a VGT. Now that we covered some SCHD truths, we can all breathe and put our weapons down as we go ahead and talk about my second lesson learned, which is straight from Warren Buffett's mouth: diversification is just for idiots. Now, in my own words, I'm going to say less is simply more. But allow me to explain here. I'm not telling anyone to just go all in on 1 or 2 positions. That'd be quite bold, potentially lucrative, but also just more of a gambling bet. On the other hand, I am telling you to avoid the mistake that I made, which was investing into dozens upon dozens of positions and spreading myself way too thin for multiple reasons. First, there is no way to keep tabs on 30, 40, 50 plus stocks, and if the quote-unquote experts out there can't really do it well, chances are you also don't have that type of time on your hands. But more importantly, spreading yourself too thin on positions for the sake of safety is all what an ETF is for. And finally, we'll go back to Warren Buffett's words of wisdom in that diversification may preserve wealth, but concentration actually builds wealth. And that simply comes down to running your numbers. If you only have $500 or maybe $1,000 or $10,000 and you invest into 30 or 40 positions, that means either less than $100 or $1,000 into each position, which will yield you much less in terms of a return on each position, versus just remaining focused on, say, 5 to 7 positions on top of an ETF to allocate more firepower into all your high conviction stock picks to really boost returns. Now, true story, in 2020, I bought a lot of stocks and I'm still paying that price for my mistake. Moreover, it wasn't fun collecting, say, a 25-cent dividend. And only now, after trimming my portfolio down to under 10 positions, do I really understand the real power of concentration, which now leads me to lesson number 3. Dividend yield should not be your focus. It all comes down to total return. Now, high dividend stocks can in fact provide exceptional opportunities for savvy investors out there. And if we are honest with ourselves, I mean, who wouldn't want to jump at the chance to earn a sky-high yield on their investment? But the reality is investors need to be very careful of chasing high dividend stocks. After all, if something sounds too good to be true, what's the saying? It usually is. Now, a company's high dividend might actually be because its stock has suffered significant drops in the share price that suggests that there's financial trouble that could basically impact the future dividend payments. For example, let's say a company trades at $50 per share and pays a $2.50 annual dividend for a 5% dividend yield. Not too shabby. But then let's say a negative external shock, like a 2020 scenario, sends the stock to $25 per share. The company may not cut its dividend. Therefore, at a superficial glance, the company would appear to now be paying a 10% dividend yield, which leaves you, of course, with your jaw dropped. However, this high yield could be and is likely gonna be temporary. The same catalyst that cratered the stock price could lead the company to reduce that dividend. Now, on the other hand, a company might elect to keep its dividend intact to actually reward the very loyal shareholders like yourself if you're chasing that dividend yield. Thus, investors should look to a company's financial health and operations, as well as determining whether this dividend is actually going to be continuously paid out and it's sustainable over time. But let me just tell you now, you don't want to be the fool that's holding the bag of a yield trap, as the stock itself it's just going to drive you insane. I mean, when you get that dividend cut, no one is going to have a fun time. Talking about the AT&Ts and 3Ms of the world. However, you just need to consider your age and investment timeline here as well. If you're on the younger side, just seek dividend growth stocks, given companies that consistently boost their dividends generally just have exceptional free cash flows, strong balance sheets, and of course, they're there to maintain those dividend payments and growth throughout the long period of time, and they exhibit above average revenue growth. Now, personally, where I'm at today, I'm a 30-year-old investor. I'm focused on dividend growth stocks with dividend yields that range from, say, less than 1% to 3.5%. And as I get closer to retirement, I will adjust my focus accordingly. But for now, ideal power plays for me are like Visa with a less than 1% dividend yield, and we're going to see plenty of growth and upside there over time. United Health as well with a below 2% dividend yield, but again, look at this firepower. I have also stocks like Apple and Google in my portfolio, both less than the 1% dividend. Now, total return is just where my focus is, and I got to be honest with you, it just needs to be where your focus is if you're really looking to reach your goals. Now, we're going to get to the fourth lesson learned, but investors, just before I tap into that fourth lesson, I want to go ahead and share this with you directly. There's just about half of you out there who keep tuning in video to video, but you're not actually subscribed. So if that's you, I want you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel now. Help me grow this community. And moreover, if you're getting value from this content, learning something new, tap on that thumbs up button. It will prompt me to keep making videos just like this. And with that, we're going to get right back to it here with the fourth lesson. This is a big one, and it comes down to monthly dividend stocks being incredibly sexy, but not necessarily marriage material. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, many of us are adamant about buying monthly dividend stocks over quarterly paying dividend stocks because, as it would appear, you would essentially have more money in your pocket every single month from a monthly payer, which makes complete sense, and there's some truth there. But also, if that is what you're after, I'm simply going to ask you why you're investing. For money to spend now, or because you think the reinvested capital would roll a dividend snowball for you much faster? From sheer experience, it once again comes down to quality of your investment, and moreover, there are some significant drawbacks that I want to talk about when it comes to investing in a monthly dividend stock. Like the fact that distributions in terms of dividends every month requires more frequent processing, accounting, and management of cash flows. This increases operational costs, meaning companies are technically less profitable if monthly dividends come with extra costs to actually process. Not only that, but companies might actually struggle to maintain consistent monthly payouts, especially during periods of financial instability or economic downturns, again, like 2020 or even more recently. And finally, from a market psychology standpoint, the frequency of dividend payments might influence investor sentiment. Monthly dividends can be perceived as a sign that a company is prioritizing the short-term income over long-term growth, While this is technically true, this perception might deter the long-term investors who are more interested in the company's actual growth potential than these short-term distributions. But even Brian, the CEO of Simply Safe Dividends, shared with me directly on a Masters of the Market chat that they're actually quite dangerous because, as we can see here, many of them have much lower safety scores because they have to pay that dividend monthly. The question comes down to whether or not it's really sustainable. So let me now explain with an analogy. Monthly dividend stocks are simply the girl in the red dress. Sexy, and will give you that fast cash for sure. But the quality dividend stocks that you can enjoy for the long span of time are usually the ones that you actually want to marry. You know, the modest, respectable types that continue to deliver and remain there for you no matter what. In other words, don't just date your dividend stocks, get married to them. And with marriage comes the task of weeding out the candidates to best suit your goals that are likely mine to maximize your total return. And finally now, lesson learned number 5, if you want to get rich, especially with dividends, you have to feed the fire. In other words, do not stop investing, whether that's on a daily, weekly, or at bare minimum a monthly basis. Personally, growing up, I always had a job, was just always working, from mowing lawns and gardening to washing and waxing cars. And in the wintertime, some big paydays from shoveling the driveways with all that snow. Then as I grew older into my teens, I was a busboy, I was a waiter, delivery man, fitness trainer, even got involved in an MLM business. The point is, I was always making money, and I missed out on thousands of dollars because I didn't get invested. But I don't want to punish myself too hard for not investing even younger than I did. I did throw a lump sum of money into the market in college and just let it sit there. And while yes, it grew over time, I didn't get that real eighth wonder of the world effect of compound interest until I really started taking dollar cost averaging seriously and doing what I'm doing now, which is really feeding the fire. But just to share with you the real power of dollar cost averaging to enjoy the firepower of compounding, let's just take my roughly $20,000 that I had at the start of my journey and put it into the market for 50 years with an average return rate of the market, which is 7%, and do nothing with it over that period of time to get $569,140.50. Not too bad considering I only put in the 20 grand. However, if I was smart and decided to really go after financial freedom like my life depended on, like I'm doing so now, and threw in $1,000 every month, which I hate to burst your bubble, is totally doable for everyone out there. If you work hard enough without any excuses, you could see a total return soar to over $4.8 million for only contributing $620,000. So enough with the Starbucks coffee runs. Think twice about all the clothes that will hang idling in your closet after 1 or 2 wears, and perhaps dine out less per week. Choose to hang in versus hanging out so you can really just double up on your investments. Then do all the money wasting business later on when you're actually financially free. Now, investors, in knowing these 5 takeaways of mine, I am sincerely wishing you all the best of luck this year and more on your journey. But I'd also love now to know some of your biggest lessons learned on your journeys thus far. So comment down below. Definitely be sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're not already subscribed. If you haven't hit your $100,000 mark just yet, I want you to tune into this video right here, and I will see you all there.